Hey Moira, this is your brother. You're a psychopath. I am not. I'm a lawyer. You are not. I graduated from college legitimately. It appears you did not because, you never lived on campus at Wellesley College. And you were never admitted anywhere else as an undergraduate. And you never lived on campus anywhere, which I assume Wellesley requires for Davis scholars that they have lived on, that they have when they are admitted to Wellesley College as a Davis Scholar, that they have lived on college campus somewhere, because living on campus is an essential part of the Northeastern Liberal Arts College experience. So there's no way you legitimately graduated from Wellesley College, because I was your brother, and you never lived on campus anywhere at a college before you started at Wellesley, and you never lived on campus at Wellesley. So there's no way. I don't know the specifics, but there's no way you graduated from Wellesley College legitimately. It had to have been some form of transcript fraud. Anyways, your admission had to be some form of transcript fraud. And I suspect, looking back, you probably also handed in a bunch of papers that weren't your own. Because I read one of your papers it was sometime around 1998, and you were a junior or a sophomore, I don't remember which, and your writing skills stunk. I had to teach you how to use a parenthetical phrase, or put a comma at the beginning of a sentence after a phrase like, in spite of this, comma, and straight out of Strunk and White and some other stuff, and you didn't know how to do that when you were faxing your papers from a Staples somewhere in Massachusetts to 65 Clark Street. So there's no way you got your writing skills were terrible. So there's no way you graduated legitimately from Wellesley College. And so I'm a lawyer with some trial experience, and you're not. So that covers the introductory phase of this recording. What I am and what you're not, or what you are and what I'm not. That's called context. Now, I just left you for 5 voicemails. Now your voicemail box is full. For a high-flying, important person who's the principal investigator or the head or whatever your title is of the Qualtrics XM Institute, that's unusual. It seems unusual that 5 voicemails would fill up your voicemail inbox. So you're blocking me somehow. Because I'm saying things you don't like, you and Mom committed some form of homicide against Dad. And you and Mom stole $20 million in inheritance. Well, $20 million in Dad's estate. I'm owed half the estate as one of his heirs. And based upon Mom's repeated promises to me in front of Dad, I am owed half the estate when Mom dies. And I've seen a copy of Dad's will I got from the Middlesex County Probate and Family Court. And it doesn't say what Mom says it was going to say. Which means what Mom did to me for over 10 years while she was extorting and blackmailing me was also fraud. All those promises about, don't worry, Edward, you're going to get half the estate when both of us die. That was fraud. Work for us. Take care of us. That was fraud. Anyways, there were also some death threats along the way, and some other horrible things. It was basically extortion, and the Newton PD helped. Yeah, I remember the Newton PD threatened me with death as part of it all. When I figured out Mom's death threats and all the extortion was malarkey. When it was a bunch of false. When a large part of the extortion turned out to be what I thought were, I began to suspect they were falsehoods, malarkey. Mom and you arranged for a member of the Newton PD to threaten me with death. An armed, uniformed female Newton police sergeant threatened me with death. So, anyways, in this context, this is basically this recording is a 7th message, in addition to those prior 6 messages I just left on your voicemail. I think it is Friday, April 3rd, Moira. It is Friday, April 3rd. It is about 14 past 9 in the morning. And God help, yes, I'm alert and oriented by date, time, and place and situation. I'm a target of the Greek mob, my crazy-ass sister. And it's about 9:14 on Friday, April 3rd, 2026. And God help us, we got a crazy, malignant, narcissist fascist as President of the United States who started a war for no good reason in Iran. And it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a huge mess. Anyways, so let's get back to the point. Moira, you and Mom have been at this for 11 years. Actually, more than 11 years. Along with the Greek mob and the Italian mafia in the background, and what you did to Dad and me. It's extortion and fraud and some form of homicide. And the amount of money involved, at least in terms of this family, is $20 million. And Dad saved up. He saved up some of it, and Dad had the family live a very conservative lifestyle, and he bought T-bills and municipal bonds. And then, of course, some of it was probably AMBAC stock, because he didn't sell the AMBAC stock, and some billionaire came along a few years ago after the 2008 financial crisis, and he bought AMBAC. I won't go into a long explanation of municipal bond insurance and how insurance contracts work, but some smart billionaire came in after AMBAC went bankrupt in 2008, where Dad worked, and Dad had stock options from AMBAC, which were worthless in 2008. But as Dad called it, the book, a local business person who called them accounts receivable, Dad had been in charge of general obligation bonds at AMBAC and general obligation bond insurance at AMBAC. So that means Dad had intimate knowledge of what they call the book on Wall Street at AMBAC, and that's accounts receivable to a local business person and to a small business. In terms of microeconomics, a local business person would call this accounts receivable. AMBAC had billions of dollars in accounts receivable over the next 40 years. And so some smart billionaire came along, waited for the price of AMBAC to go down low enough, and he bought it. Turned it around, which means Dad's stock options probably are worth a shitload of money now. Unless, of course, you sold them in absconding with the estate via a will that is invalid on its face. Dad had $20 million. And the way he got it was live a modest lifestyle, buy T-bills and municipal bonds with everything, and God only knows what happened to the AMBAC stock after that billionaire bought the company a few years ago, sometime between the 2008 financial crisis and now. Dad was worth $20 million when he died. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for my cell phone bill. And I took care of Dad for 10 years. There's something wrong with that picture. And all these recordings I'm making for you are about that. What's wrong with that picture? Under circumstances where you refuse to communicate with me. You refuse steadfastly to communicate with me in any legitimate and effective way when you are the manager of Dad's estate, according to the Middlesex County Probate and Family Court. That's a fiduciary position, Moira. It means you have an affirmative legal obligation to act. When I was an assistant district attorney, I had several affirmative legal obligations to act. I was a mandated reporter. If there were certain crimes I witnessed, I had to report them to the government, or else I was in trouble with the law. And there were a number of other things I had an affirmative obligation to do as an assistant district attorney. So being a fiduciary of somebody's will as a manager doesn't have as many obligations as being an ADA, because first of all, you're a lawyer, and lawyers have lots of affirmative obligations under the law. And in the ADA, they also have an additional set of affirmative obligations under the law because they're sworn. It's a sworn position. I put my hand on a Bible, I put my right hand up in the air, and Lynn Rooney, the executive first assistant district attorney of Middlesex County at the time, swore me in. And from that day forward until early September of 2004, I had a lot of affirmative obligations under the law to act. So by comparison, what you're doing right now, Moira, or attempt not doing, what you are not doing right now as the manager of Dad's estate is easy. So you are failing to do something that is just easy to do. It's because you're a fucking criminal. Because you and Mom ran off with all the money. So that's a 9-minute and 25-second introduction. Here's the reason I started this recording. There's evidence of what you are doing or what you have done because you're committing crimes after the fact of the obvious some form of homicide committed against Dad and the obvious theft of $20 million in the estate. And, there's things you've done since then and the extortion and fraud committed against Dad and I for over 11 years. You're interfering with my ability to do things. You and the Greek mob, there's circumstantial evidence that makes it obvious that you, Mom, and the Greek mob are interfering with my ability to communicate, my ability to move about, and my ability to prove what you have done by gathering information and communicating that information. Now, I thought about somebody I worked with at the DA's office. I will make an analogy here. And this is the reason I started this message. I'm sorry for the 10-minute introduction, Moira. 10-minute and 45-second introduction. But you know me, my father was a college professor. And I'm sort of like, I grew up in that household full of college professors. Paul Flynn, Pat Hennigan, Dad. And the Beardsleys. You remember the Beardsleys? Yeah. Anyways, so I talk like I'm the kind of person who it takes me 10 minutes just to introduce something. Even though I never got a PhD. So I thought of something, an analogy here. Joe Mychek. There's this attorney out there named Joe Mychek. God bless him. He's a wonderful man. Joe Mychek is Polish. Joe Mychek, when I met him, he was an assistant district attorney. And he taught me about moving, communicating, and that which you do to bad people, or ways you effectively use things against people who are behaving badly, right? Now, the way Joe Mychek learned this was not at the DA's office. Before he joined the district attorney's office, Joe Mychek was in the United States Army. He was in something called the Green Berets, I believe it's called. Yeah, Joe Mychek, when he was in the military, before he joined the DA's office, before he became an attorney, he was something called a Green Beret in the military. I don't have a very good idea. I have a moderate idea of what that is. And he always used to talk in terms of, Ed, we taught them, he talked about being in Central America in the 80s. He was a little bit older than I am. And he said, Ed, we trained these people how to move, shoot, and communicate. Now, I don't shoot. I'm an attorney. I use pen and paper and words and the law. So I don't own a gun. I don't want to own a gun. I have no need of a gun. I'm learning about guns because I don't want to get shot. But, anyways, Joe Mychek was what they call an armorer in the Green Berets. And I guess the armorer is as described to me by Joe. He used to live out in Nahant. He's an awesome guy. I don't know if he still lives out in Nahant. I went to 4th of July in Nahant with him. Awesome guy. And we watched the fireworks out off the water in Nahant. It was very nice. It was a nice break from going down to the Esplanade for 4th of July. Anyways, Joe used to talk about in terms of moving, shooting, and communicating. Now, if you're a lawyer, you don't shoot. You use information. You file motions. And you gather information. You file motions in court. So for a lawyer, filing a motion or having a hearing is the equivalent of shooting. And or filing a lawsuit. And you, Moira, and the Greek mob, and Mom, and the Italian mafia in the form of Steve Solari over at Advance Auto, you have, in ways that can be proven very clearly by circumstantial evidence, destroyed my ability to move about. The Prius will not work. The Camry I bought with my hard-earned money is not functioning properly. This phone that I'm using to record this is not functioning properly. And so I can't communicate. So I can't move about because I don't have a car. And I cannot file motions. As a result, I can't gather information and sue you. Also, I can't make money because you obviously had me wrongfully terminated from Amazon Logistics Corporation because of the strong business relationship between the Qualtrics XM Institute, of which you are the principal investigator or the head of it, whatever that is, and Amazon Logistics Corporation. I mean, the idea that a lawyer with my background is working at Amazon Logistics when you're the head of the Qualtrics XM Institute, that's not a coincidence. That's the result of some crazy set of crimes that have to have been committed. Coercion and extortion and something. And and it's not because I'm mentally ill. So Moira, when you think about this situation, because you're not a lawyer, you're not even legitimately a college graduate, you're basically a high school graduate. You are a graduate of Fayetteville Manly's high school with delusions of grandeur. And you are in the same variety of crazy person as Elizabeth Holmes or Christian Gerhard Schreider or George Santos. But you've done some very seriously bad crimes. Extortion, fraud, some form of homicide, and conspiracy with mom. And theft of $20 million. And I believe you've betrayed your country too. Because of, looking at the public records available online of Forrester Research and my knowledge of your travel history and some of the things you said to me, like you asking me to join the CIA, 15 times, once while walking through a Target, while a woman who was speaking Russian on a cell phone was walking the other way past us in the Target in Watertown. Yeah, that was stupid. When our grandfather died in Venezuela, obviously working for the CIA, and Dad worked for SRC Inc., and I was recruited by the CIA on LinkedIn, and for 2 years afterwards via banner ads through the Rubicon Project, which was targeted advertising. Yeah, the CIA is involved somehow. And that's why I'm in this crazy, stupid, bizarre situation. And I don't know the specifics, but I know the generalities. You have interfered with my ability to move, communicate, and make money and sue, which are the equivalent in the civilian world of shooting, and the CIA's involved, and the Greek mob's involved, and the Italian mafia's involved. So I don't know the specifics, but I think I know what Joe Mychek would say. He would say something very funny, and something about his uncle who paid for his college and law school education. Took me a while to figure out that the uncle who was kind of an asshole, who paid for Joe Mychek's college and high school education, it was his Uncle Sam. That's right. It's little jokes they have in the military that I learned from Joe Mychek. The uncle that paid for Joe Mychek's college and law school education was his Uncle Sam, the United States government. Anyways, here's the point, Moira. I don't know the specifics of what's going on here. I just know the broad outlines with respect to the CIA and whatever the fuck you and the Greek and Italian mafia did. And I'm trying to look at it through the lens of Joe Mychek and some other people I've met in my life. And look at this problem the way they would look at it. And I know this. The CIA doesn't work with the Italian mafia. That's just stupid. They're psychopaths and they're unreliable. So all that stuff in the movies about the CIA working with the Italian mafia is just dumb. People in the Italian mafia are stupid and they're psychopaths and they're unreliable. So the CIA, even though they're a bunch of narcissistic and psychopathic crazy people, they are more reliable as people. And reliable people don't like working with unreliable people. So here's what I think about the connection between, and I think this is what Joe Mychek would probably say, because he's got great common sense. And he was an armorer in the Green Beret, so he's probably an effective guy. When you have a CIA, someone who's obviously an intelligence officer, obviously working with the Greek and Italian mafia, it's a sign of corruption. It's a sign of incompetence and corruption and criminal activity. It's not what the CIA does. So the fact that our family obviously has a 3-generation association with the CIA, going back to Thomas Crawford Dorsey, and running through SRC Inc. and Forrester Research, and my recruitment via the internet, which I declined by just not responding to them. It's obvious that you have done something horrible. I don't know specifically what. But you travel a lot, or at least you used to. London, Australia, Portugal, Germany. You saw Zoltan and Ava in Germany, I think. But in 2023, you probably saw Zoltan and Ava in Germany. And they're communists. They used to be communists, Moira. Zoltan and Ava, from when you danced in Germany in 1987 and 1988, they were communists. And Zoltan's mommy was a member of the Communist Party. And because of the history of Hungary, there was no way to get out of Hungary in the 80s without the permission of the government and being willing to work for the Hungarian intelligence people. The same way Americans, when they come home, they agree to work for the National Resources Division of the CIA. There was no Hungary in the 80s as a country was a prison run by the Russians because the Hungarians had rebelled years before, and the Russians were running everything. So there's no way when you met Zoltan and Ava in 1987 in Lüneburg, Germany, they were not assets of the KGB. Zero chance because of the way the Cold War was. And you're never out, so they have to be FSB. And you were in Germany or somewhere in that area in Europe in 2023. So, Moira, whatever the heck you did, I don't know the specifics of what you did, but I'm in this bizarre situation. I know I'm innocent. I know I was never in the CIA. I know you, Dad, and our grandfather who died in Venezuela in the early 50s have to have been in the CIA. And I got the Greek and Italian mafia scaring the shit out of me and killing my cats and terrorizing me for the last 11 years. And $20 million is missing in Dad's estate, and Dad was obviously the victim of some form of homicide. And Dad, because of his work history, was obviously CIA counterintelligence. Because of the subject of Dad's dissertation and statements Dad made to me during my life, Dad was obviously CIA counterintelligence. So I don't know what the heck is going on, but RTX and Raytheon, they're up in Andover and Tewksbury. And the Greek mob across the street, they're probably the best extortionists in Massachusetts. So I don't know what the fuck you did here, Moira. But Joe Mychek, he would say, yeah, they're traitors. We just don't know what the specifics are. You're in serious trouble with the law, Moira. Stop screwing with my ability to make money